Hey, welcome to Synth Fundamentals. Today we're going to look at different chorusing techniques. The goal of chorus is to create a detuned duplicate of your signal. The way this is normally achieved is by making a duplicate and oscillating the pitch. So let's start by replicating that with oscillator pitch modulation. We have two sawtooth waves. Let's make sure they're completely in tune with each other, so we lower pitch variance, and we'll set it so that the phase resets on the key. So now it's like we just have one wave, but we just have two instances. Let's go to the mod matrix, take LFO1, and use that to control oscillator pitch 2. By controlling the speed of this LFO, we can control the speed of the modulation. So notice as we get to the higher numbers, once we start getting into audio range, we'll start to hear side bands. We can control the depth by controlling the modulation amount, so we can have light chorusing or extreme chorusing. Now if we want something more like a Leslie speaker, we can take that third oscillator, and now we can take this LFO and modulate the pitch of oscillator 3, but we'll want the exact opposite amount of modulation. So if oscillator 2 has plus 4%, this is minus 4%. Personally, I like the Leslie effect when it's at higher modulation amounts. So let's try something like plus 10 and minus 10. With the Leslie method, instead of having very pronounced audible modulation or vibrato, you hear something that's a little more static sounding. So now let's go into delay modulation. So that's just a delay. You want the feedback to be very low, preferably 0. So you just have one duplicate. And then lower your delay time, so it's just maybe around 10 milliseconds. You can already hear the comb filtering effect, so let's turn off delay and then turn it on. You can hear it sounds a little more nasally or almost kind of weaker. That's because of comb filtering, which creates this effect where you just kind of see notches regularly spaced throughout your signal. So now let's take LFO1 and use it to modulate the time of the delay. So let's look at that manually. So if we take the delay time and we lower it, you see a sinking pitch. If we raise it, you'll hear a rising pitch because the signal that's already been sampled is being reconstructed at a different rate than it was sampled at. So by just changing the delay time, you can manually create chorus. Now if you raise the time of that a little more, to say like 20 milliseconds, and then add feedback, you get these metallic effects. Now if you modulate the delay time, you'll recognize that as flanging. You can also use envelope modulation of delay to get some pretty interesting effects. Now let's combine that with an LFO. Now there's detune at the onset of the note, controlled by this envelope. Then once that initial detune subsides, we have an LFO causing flanging. Now let's take a look at that comb filter. Add some slight feedback, bring it into the chorus range, so around 10 Hertz. Add LFO modulation. This replicates the effect of a delay line, so it's not a particularly surprising development that this gets to the same result. Now there's one more trick that we can use, which is similar to the Leslie effect, but using two delay lines with inverted modulation. This is the way that the static choruses are created, like a dimension chorus. You have opposite panned choruses with inverted modulation. So here I'm going to unlink the left and right delays. Then let's use LFO1 to modulate the left and right delay times, but in opposite directions. So just like the Leslie effect, instead of hearing a pronounced upward and downward movement of the pitch, instead you hear just a general widening. You can raise the feedback and the delay times and create a sort of dimension static flanger. Or instead of going for a static effect, you can even decouple the left and right delay times or use different modulation sources to create more variation. So here my left and right delays have related time, but not necessarily the same time. The right delay is twice as long as the left delay. And now here's the same effect, but for delay time. LFO2 is twice as rapid as LFO1. There really is a lot of flexibility in these techniques. Notice we haven't used the filter at all, and we've created a wide range of sounds just using different methods of chorusing. Once you start combining this with other facilities within the synth, envelopes, filters, other effects, reverbs, there really is a lot that you can do. And with that, this has been Synth Fundamentals. I'm That Beat. Thanks for watching.